What if I told you that one man's life shaped an entire nation? His name was Jacob, but his journey from a cunning trickster to the father of the 12 tribes of Israel is filled with shocking twists, divine encounters, and lessons that still echo through history. This is the extraordinary story of Jacob, also known as Israel. And trust me, you've never heard it told like this. Before we dive in, be sure to subscribe to our channel for more powerful and eye-opening Bible stories that reveal the truth behind the scriptures. Jacob's story begins before he even takes his first breath. His life is marked by conflict, and his destiny is set in motion while he is still in the womb. His mother, Rebekah, had long prayed for a child, and when she finally conceived, she experienced an unusual struggle within her body. The movement was not ordinary. Her twins seemed to be warring inside her. Troubled by this, she sought the Lord's wisdom, and what she received was a shocking revelation. 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples from within you will be separated, or one people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger. Genesis 25:23. This prophecy was no small matter. It foretold a generational conflict that would extend beyond the 2 brothers and into their descendants. The struggle between Esau and Jacob was not just about sibling rivalry. It represented a deeper, divine plan at work. When the time for birth arrived, the firstborn emerged, a boy covered with thick red hair, resembling a garment of fur. Because of his appearance, he was named Esau, meaning hairy or rough. But the real surprise came next. His twin brother followed immediately, grasping onto Esau's heel as if trying to pull him back into the womb and take his place. This second child was named Jacob, meaning supplanter or heel grabber. Even in birth, he seemed determined to challenge his brother's position. As the boys grew, their differences became even more pronounced. Esau became a skillful hunter, a man of the field, rugged and wild. He was favored by his father, Isaac, who delighted in his son's ability to bring home game. Jacob, on the other hand, was quiet, preferring to stay at home. He was deeply attached to his mother, Rebekah, who saw something special in him. Perhaps she remembered God's prophecy and believed Jacob was the son through whom God's promise would continue. This parental favoritism created an unstable family dynamic. Isaac and Rebekah were playing a dangerous game, one that would set the stage for deception, betrayal, and lifelong consequences. One fateful day, Esau came home from hunting, exhausted and famished. He found Jacob cooking a simple red stew. Desperate for food, Esau demanded, "Let me eat some of that red stew, for I am exhausted." Genesis 25:30. But Jacob, ever the schemer, saw an opportunity. He made a bold offer, "Sell me your birthright first." Now, the birthright was no small thing. It was the privilege of the firstborn to inherit a double portion of the family wealth and, more importantly, the spiritual blessing of carrying God's covenant forward. But in his hunger and impatience, Esau dismissed its value. "Look, I am about to die. What good is a birthright to me?" he scoffed. Without hesitation, he swore an oath and exchanged his divine inheritance for a bowl of lentil stew. This moment is often overlooked, but it reveals something crucial. Esau despised what was sacred. He traded something of eternal significance for a temporary pleasure. Jacob, though cunning, showed a deep desire for the blessing, even if he went about obtaining it in a questionable way. But the real deception was yet to come. Years later, as Isaac grew old and blind, it was time for him to pass on the official blessing of the firstborn. He called Esau and instructed him to hunt and prepare his favorite meal so that he could bless him before he died. But Rebekah, overhearing the plan, quickly intervened. She convinced Jacob to disguise himself as Esau, covering his smooth arms with goat skins, wearing Esau's clothes, and bringing a meal to his father before Esau returned. Isaac was suspicious at first. "The voice is Jacob's, but the hands are the hands of Esau," he said. But ultimately, he was deceived. He placed his hands on Jacob and spoke the powerful blessing over him, one that would shape history. "May God give you heaven's dew and earth's richness, an abundance of grain and new wine. May nations serve you and peoples bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may the sons of your mother bow down to you." Genesis 27:28-29. The moment Jacob received the blessing, everything changed. He had secured what he long desired, but at a great cost. When Esau returned and discovered what had happened, his grief turned to rage. "Is he not rightly named Jacob? For he has deceived me these 2 times," he cried out. Esau then made a chilling vow to kill Jacob once their father had passed. Rebekah, realizing the danger, urged Jacob to flee to her brother Laban's house, setting him on a journey that would transform his life. The deceiver was about to be deceived, but little did he know, God's hand was still on him. Jacob's journey away from his home was not just a physical escape, it was a transformation in the making. He was running for his life, leaving behind everything familiar. The weight of his deception hung over him. His brother Esau burned with rage, and his mother, Rebekah, who had orchestrated his escape, would never see him again. As he set out toward Haran, where his uncle Laban lived, he was alone for the first time in his life. No protective mother, no scheming to do, just the vast, open wilderness ahead of him. As night fell, Jacob found himself in a desolate place. The only shelter he had was the sky, the only pillow, a stone. He lay down, exhausted from the journey, but what happened next would change the course of his life forever. Jacob had a dream unlike any other. He saw a stairway reaching from earth to heaven, with angels ascending and descending on it. At the top of the ladder stood the Lord himself, speaking directly to Jacob. "I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham and the God of Isaac. I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying. Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth. All peoples on earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. I am with you and will watch over you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this land." Genesis 28:13-15. This was a shocking moment of divine grace. Up until now, Jacob had relied on deception and cunning to get ahead. He had taken Esau's birthright, stolen his father's blessing, and fled for his life. Yet, despite all of this, God reaffirmed the same promise he had made to Abraham and Isaac. Jacob was not rejected, but chosen. When Jacob awoke, he was overwhelmed with awe. He realized that he had encountered God in an unexpected place, a barren wilderness. Trembling, he said, "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it. How awesome is this place! This is none other than the house of God. This is the gate of heaven." Genesis 28:16-17. Jacob then took the stone he had used as a pillow, set it upright as a pillar, and anointed it with oil, naming the place Bethel, meaning house of God. This was a turning point. He made a vow saying, "If God will be with me and watch over me on this journey, then the Lord will be my God." Genesis 28:20-21. For the first time, Jacob acknowledged that his life was in God's hands. Yet, in true Jacob fashion, his vow still had conditions. He was not fully surrendered, but he was on the path to transformation. With this divine encounter marking his journey, Jacob continued toward Haran. But little did he know, the tables were about to turn. The deceiver was about to meet a master deceiver, his uncle Laban. Years had passed since Jacob fled his home, and his life had taken an unexpected turn. Though he had escaped Esau's wrath, he found himself entangled in another web of deception, this time at the hands of his uncle Laban. The man who had once tricked his own brother was now on the receiving end of trickery. Laban deceived him into marrying Leah instead of Rachel, forced him into years of labor, and constantly changed his wages. But through it all, God prospered Jacob. He left Laban's household with a large family, servants, and great wealth and livestock. Yet, despite his success, Jacob could not escape his past. God spoke to him, saying, "Return to the land of your fathers and to your relatives, and I will be with you." Genesis 31:3. Jacob obeyed, but fear gripped him. He knew that returning meant facing Esau, the brother he had wronged. He had no idea whether Esau still sought vengeance. So he sent messengers ahead, hoping to ease the tension. But when they returned, their report sent chills down his spine. "We met your brother Esau, and he is coming to meet you with 400 men." Genesis 32:6. This was no simple family reunion. To Jacob, it sounded like an army marching toward him. Panic set in. He divided his people and flocks into two groups, thinking that if Esau attacked one, the other might escape. Then, for the first time, Jacob truly humbled himself before God. He prayed earnestly, "O God of my father Abraham and God of my father Isaac, I am unworthy of all the kindness and faithfulness you have shown your servant. Save me, I pray, from the hand of my brother Esau, for I am afraid he will come and attack me." Genesis 32:9-11. Yet, even as he prayed, Jacob still tried to control the situation. He sent waves of gifts ahead to Esau, hoping to pacify him. But no gift could erase the guilt of his past. That night, something extraordinary happened. Jacob found himself alone by the river Jabbok, and in that solitude, a man appeared and wrestled with him until daybreak. This was no ordinary man. This was a divine encounter. The struggle was intense, neither side yielding. But as dawn approached, the man touched Jacob's hip, instantly dislocating it. Even in pain, Jacob refused to let go. "I will not let you go unless you bless me." Genesis 32:26. The man then asked him, "What is your name?" This was a crucial moment. Years ago, when Jacob had deceived his father Isaac, he had lied about his identity. Now, he had to face the truth. He answered, "Jacob." Then came the transformation. "Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans and have overcome." Genesis 32:28. Jacob, the deceiver, the schemer, the one who had spent his life grasping for blessings, was now Israel, the one who wrestled with God and prevailed. As the sun rose, Jacob limped away, forever changed. He had not just wrestled with a stranger, he had wrestled with his destiny, and he had been broken to be made whole. Though he had been given a new name, Israel, his greatest test still lay ahead. His brother Esau was approaching with 400 men, and Jacob had no idea what would happen when they met. Would Esau seek revenge? Would he strike down Jacob and his family in righteous fury? The weight of uncertainty pressed down on him. Jacob knew he could not run anymore. He had spent his life scheming, deceiving, and trying to control outcomes, but now he had to face the consequences of his past. He arranged his family into groups, his concubines and their children first, then Leah and her children, and finally Rachel and Joseph at the very back, hoping that if Esau attacked, the ones he loved most would have a chance to escape. Then, taking a deep breath, Jacob stepped forward alone to meet his brother. As Esau and his men drew near, Jacob did something unexpected. He bowed to the ground 7 times as he approached Esau, a sign of deep humility and submission. This was no longer the arrogant trickster who had stolen Esau's blessing. This was a man humbled by life and by God. But what happened next stunned Jacob. Instead of an attack, Esau ran toward him. Jacob braced for impact, expecting a blow, but instead Esau threw his arms around him and embraced him. Tears streamed down their faces as Esau kissed his brother. "Who are all these with you?" Esau asked, looking at Jacob's family and the gifts Jacob had sent ahead. Jacob replied, "These are the children God has graciously given your servant." Genesis 33:5. Esau shook his head, refusing the gifts. He had prospered in his own way and no longer bore a grudge against Jacob. But Jacob, still overwhelmed with emotion, insisted, "If I have found favor in your eyes, accept this gift from me. For to see your face is like seeing the face of God, now that you have received me favorably." Genesis 33:10. This moment was one of the most profound in Jacob's life. He had spent years fearing Esau, believing that their last encounter would end in bloodshed. But instead, he found forgiveness. Esau offered to travel with Jacob and his family, but Jacob, still wary, insisted on going at his own pace. Though the reunion had been peaceful, Jacob did not fully trust Esau. Instead of following him to Seir, Jacob settled in Shechem and later moved to Bethel, where he built an altar to God. This reconciliation with Esau was more than just a family reunion. It was a sign of God's faithfulness in Jacob's life. Though he had spent years running from his past, God had gone before him, softening Esau's heart. Jacob's journey had been one of transformation, from a deceiver to a man who wrestled with God and overcame. Yet, his story did not end with his reconciliation with Esau. His greatest legacy was yet to unfold. He was now Israel, the father of a nation. After settling in Canaan, Jacob's family grew, and his 12 sons became the foundation of the 12 tribes of Israel. But his life was still filled with hardship. One of his greatest trials came through his beloved son, Joseph. Joseph was Jacob's favorite, the son of his old age and the firstborn of Rachel, the wife he had truly loved. Jacob made no secret of his favoritism, gifting Joseph a coat of many colors, a symbol of honor that set him apart from his brothers. But this favoritism bred resentment, and his other sons, filled with jealousy, plotted against Joseph. One day, they seized him, threw him into a pit, and later sold him into slavery. They then deceived Jacob by dipping Joseph's coat in animal blood, making it seem as if he had been killed by a wild beast. Jacob was devastated. "Surely I will go down to the grave mourning for my son," he wept. Genesis 37:35. For years, Jacob believed Joseph was dead. The grief aged him, and he carried the sorrow in his heart, never knowing that Joseph had risen to power in Egypt. But God was still working behind the scenes. The same God who had led Jacob was now guiding his son. A famine struck the land, forcing Jacob to send his sons to Egypt for food. What he did not know was that Joseph was now second in command of all Egypt, overseeing the food supply. The moment Jacob had longed for finally came. Joseph revealed himself to his brothers and sent for his father. When Jacob heard the news, he was stunned. "Joseph, my son, is still alive. I will go and see him before I die." Genesis 45:28. At 130 years old, Jacob made the journey to Egypt. But before he entered this foreign land, God appeared to him one final time. "Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for I will make you into a great nation there. I will go down to Egypt with you, and I will surely bring you back again." Genesis 46:3-4. Jacob's story had come full circle. The young man who had once run in fear was now a patriarch, leading his family into a new chapter of history. He lived in Egypt for 17 years, reunited with Joseph, and blessed his children and grandchildren. Before he died, he gathered his sons and prophesied over them, shaping the destiny of their descendants. At the age of 147, Jacob took his final breath, surrounded by his family. He was buried in the land of his ancestors, as he had requested. His legacy lived on, not just in name, but in the nation that would come from him. The God of Abraham and Isaac was now the God of Israel. Jacob's struggles, victories, and faith became the foundation of a people chosen by God. Jacob's story is a reminder that no matter how broken or flawed we are, God's plan is bigger. From deception to destiny, Jacob's life reflects the transformative power of God's grace. If this story inspired you, subscribe to our channel for more powerful Bible stories that uncover the hidden truths of Scripture. And remember, God can turn even the most broken lives into something extraordinary.
Shalom, brothers and sisters. Did you know we have an online store? It's called theroyalremnant.com. We have a variety of clothing and home decor items. Explore our sweatshirts. We have a few different designs and multiple color options. Or navigate to our home decor section and check out our candle designs. We have candles that read Shalom and some that read All Praises to the Most High. If you don't see something you love at the moment, sign up for our email list to learn of new items. Grab your free Bible story coloring pages, and your email will be added to our list. Thank you for your support. It encourages us to keep making content and merchandise to boldly share our faith. Shalom.